This piece is really curled up, so I had to use tape like all the way around just to keep it flat for this picture. Tape. See if we can get a photo that is decent. Otherwise, I will press these under a book. I think that might have worked. Let's try. So I just took some photos of some of the artwork. I'm kind of having some issues because a lot of them look really blue. This one, which I know there's blue behind it, but it's like showing up a lot more blue and not as light. So we'll see. I know I'm not going to be happy with what I'm uploading into printing websites because the colors already look off. So I'm going to retake stuff. Retake them probably in the morning. I'm gonna make sure I lay a heavy book on top of everything so I don't have to tape everything down again. And then I think I'll just take some. And then I have to do print shop research. Yeah, I'm thinking of just doing some painting tonight. I think I'm gonna just try this when the light is a little bit easier to work with. Actually, I might be able to do it on the table in the kitchen area in the morning. I usually get a little bit more energy in the later evening, so maybe in like an hour or so I can go back on and look at print shops and actually take some notes and like, oh, and then I wanted to take or at least start putting together like the photos into like the portfolio that I've been making and title things and and sign stuff. I can do that right now. Hello, I hope you're doing okay. I wanted to just record some thoughts on the week and like some of the things that I've been up to, and of course the oil paintings that you're going to see later on. So, the start of this week, I was obviously taking photographs, and I did that second photo shoot on like the kitchen table. I would say I got like a variety of good and bad photos, so I still have to pick through, and I haven't even worked on that portfolio, and it's been a little while. I actually posted this video and then took it down, and I'm reworking it now because I just didn't like it, and then I realized that some of the clips and like photos in it were corrupted or something, so they just did not look how it was looking when I was editing it. It was looking really strange. So I'm just like reworking it now. But basically, last week, I've just been up to cozy things like baking and reading and stuff, which it feels good to get back into reading. That is something that I definitely need to do more. Like, I want to read more books, and I like older books. So I was reading The Great Gatsby. And then the next day is when I started the oil paintings. So I've been wanting to get back into oil painting, not back into it. I've wanted to learn oil painting for a really long time. I've done a 5x7 oil painting, and I've worked with water mixable oils, but I would say it's just not quite the same. And these are my first like proper oil paintings, I would say. So these are two 8x10 canvases, and I'm just working on like, I don't know, I think cotton canvas, and I have linseed oil as my medium, and odorless mineral spirits as the solvent. And I just wanted to mention that the reason you see me wipe the canvas off a couple times later on and having a lot of back and forth with this particular painting is because I thinned out my paint with linseed oil instead of solvent. So I kind of made like a glaze rather than a wash. I don't know why I did this, but I just obviously wasn't thinking, and I thought, I don't know what I was thinking, but that's what I did. So it made it very difficult for me to paint over it. And I tried my best to build the paint up, but it was just getting pushed around and it was very difficult to work with. So I had to wipe it off and fix those mistakes. Luckily, though, the rose painting went much smoother. I basically just started with like a wash and then I used the thinner to like carve out where I wanted the roses to be. So that one went a lot smoother. It's just this one, it gave me probably like 40 minutes of frustration. And then I wiped it off and started again. And you'll see me wipe little bits off as well, like throughout, like where I'm gonna put the trees and stuff, because I just felt like, maybe there was still some residue. Um, I think it's fine though, and I think it'll dry okay now that I wiped it off. If I didn't wipe it off, I don't know what would have happened, but yeah. Obviously I don't know everything about oils and I didn't do like all the research before. I did stop and do some research, just like watching videos and stuff in the midst of this process because I was feeling like I just had no idea what I was doing. But yeah, I like kind of figuring things out on my own anyways, and I know it can kind of cause frustration, but it was really fun overall. I did enjoy it. Um, and I was just using paper towels and rags and stuff like that. For references for this painting, I didn't really use a reference. I had a couple pictures that I had pulled up, but they were nothing like this, how this painting turns out. I had one mostly that was it was black and white, and it was quite plain. It was just like a plain landscape, and I was just using that as a reference for like atmosphere, like the atmospheric layers, I suppose, of a landscape, like how it gets, how the what am I trying to say? How it gets lighter, I guess, as it goes back, or like, just the detail level of up close versus far away in a landscape. So I was using that as a reference for like how I would paint the shadows or the lightness and stuff. And then I had one other picture that showed like a couple of trees that were similar shapes to mine. So that's what I took inspiration for the trees. Those are the only two references that I used. Otherwise, I just kind of made it up, which probably I think added to the frustration of this painting as I just didn't know where it was going to go. And something that I'm really used to coming from acrylics is that I just kind of make it up as I go a lot of the time. And with acrylic, you can really get away with that because you can just paint over anything all the time. Like you can start with a base and it will change a lot. But with oil, if I just started with, a certain color everywhere, it's gonna mix with what I put on top of it, and it's just gonna become a mess if I do that. Even like when I'm adding these trees, I was just really struggling. But yeah, the rose painting went much better. You'll see me use a reference in a book that I have. I think it's called Vintage Roses, but I just used that picture and then I kind of picked my favorite flowers and squished the composition and made my own. So I wouldn't say I copied that page, I just kind of used it as a guide and then arranged the roses how I wanted. But if you've been wanting to try like a new medium or something, hopefully this can be inspiring. Like you don't have to know everything to begin. And I hope you enjoy watching, or I can be of some company to you. I just took a little bit of a break. I had something to eat and I had just a little look at some oil painting things. So I feel a little bit more confident and I'm gonna work on this because I was having trouble with it earlier. I had a couple of photos that I was kind of working from, like pulling different things from. What the heck? It just like crashed. Okay, there we go. But yeah, I think I just need to be more confident because oil paint definitely goes through a stage. I'm obviously having a little bit more of that because of my mistake. I'm just gonna try. This is really light because I went over it. I'm trying to do kind of a vintagey, old fine art looking landscape painting. It's hard for me to do this type of landscape because I don't have a plan for where I'm going to put things. But I want it to be quite simple. That's kind of the goal. Simple. I love the way oil moves around though. It's really, really fun. This is one of the things that has been on my list, is to get better at oil painting. A little bit on this off of camera, but I'm trying to add in some depth now that I've gotten these a little bit more opaque. So I kind of have most of the darks in. Now I just need to go in and add some of my lights and highlights over top the dark. Hopefully that won't be too hard. And then I'm going to add in some clouds right here and a little bit of detail to the trees. And then I might add in just some leaves and stuff there. But overall, I want it to be pretty simple. And I might add like a bush or a small tree there. I started another painting. I just realized I wasn't filming. I'm taking inspiration from this page out of my Vintage Roses book. I liked the darks and lights in this, and I love doing compositions with like a lot of different flowers. So I kind of have it mapped out, and I'm just kind of filling in the background right now. Basically I just covered the whole canvas with like a dark kind of brown mixed with black wash, and then used my brush with the solvent on it to take away some of the paint so that I can kind of see where the flowers are going to be. So that's all I was doing. I just forgot to film, and anytime I get paint in the wrong spot, you can kind of just lift it off really easily. That's where oil paint is very, very cool. So I'm not really following the picture, but I'm just using it as like a guide, and then kind of making my own arrangement of like where the flowers are going to be. And then I'll decide kind of where I want the focal point to be. But yeah, you can use a paper towel or something like that. I'm just using my brush to do this method. Just while the paint is still wet, I can kind of go back and fix some of the shapes. I don't know how far I'll get on this tonight. I'm going to probably get the flowers filled in and get like the base filled in of this painting. And then, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have to stop and make dinner in a little bit. And I would like to take some of these caps off and clean the paints because they're already getting kind of gross. Good morning, it is the next day and I am working on this painting. From the clips that you've seen before, I am working to completely remove the flower that was here because I did not like it. I felt like it was kind of competing with this arrangement with having a whole flower here. I feel like it looks a lot nicer now. I'm trying to balance having detail because I do want this to be a relatively detailed painting, but I don't want there to be so much detail that it's not loose or that it's distracting. So I'm trying to balance that at the moment. I was originally going to take this flower away and then shift it over a little, but now that it's gone, I think I'm gonna just leave it this way. I'm still kind of undecided on the kind of green that I want to use. I want it to kind of blend in just a touch more. So that's kind of what I'm currently working on, is trying to get this area how I think it'll look balanced and correct for this flower. I just want to render it a tiny bit more, like define things so that this flower looks pretty realistic. If I show you my book, ow, just hit my knee. If I show you my book, it is this one. So I kind of want it to just be a tiny bit more rendered than the others. I want to add in, you know, some of this like warm orangey color into the petals and a little bit more of that pinky orangey color in the inside. And then I just want to outline the very bottom of the flower with a little white. So I want to get that one kind of to be the focal point. The second most detailed thing I want is this. So my composition is like a squished version of this. I just took the bits that I wanted from this picture. Like I picked my favorite flowers basically, and I translated it into a different composition. But I want this leaf to also be quite detailed. So I think I can get away with rendering those just a little more. Add a tiny bit of color variety, like some bluey purpley colors in the shadows, maybe some browns. And then I think we can kind of wrap it up. This area is kind of like transparent. I'd like to keep some of that actually, but maybe just a couple strokes of that same color, but with a bit more of an opaque paint. It's funny to see how much these actually do look like my acrylic paintings, because this is how I paint in acrylics. It really is quite similar, which is why I do want this to feel a little bit more like an oil painting and kind of use the qualities of oil to render this flower just a little more, maybe that leaf, and then the rest can be just that a little bit more loose. But I would say I already have some pretty vibrant red tones on here, but I could always add just like, you know, a tiny stroke of pure red and make some of those flowers pop out a little bit more. When I was painting with water mixable oils, I felt like I was getting a headache and I wasn't feeling well every time I did it. I do open the windows. I should probably do that right now, but even without the windows, I don't feel nauseous or anything painting with regular oils, so I'm really happy about that. I got this frame. It's not vintage, but it has that vintagey look to it. And I just think it's gonna look so good with these paintings and the landscape painting I was working on earlier. It's drying right now, so I just have it over in this corner. I just think it looks so beautiful. Very like my style, like vintage. I would say like modern vintage, because this frame isn't very like ornate, but since it's such a bright gold, it feels very old-fashioned. The only thing I have to do is paint the edges of the painting and like finish it in that way. This one though, I specifically wanted it to be more monochrome There are some like brown tones, tiny bit of pinky tone, you know, a little bit of blue there, but mostly just greens and grays. I know this video is probably getting quite long at this point because I was showing you kind of a week, more of a week in my life as doing creative things.